Welcome back. So it's time to reveal the strategic focus the next hour or so. And again, Kieran and I are going to divide conga. As I said earlier this morning, for me being new and been here now for 6 months, this was the right thing to do, to take stock of where we are, work with the teams, and take feedback from the markets, including yourself, to slightly turn the direction of Ascendis Health and building on the strong roots of the company. We'll divide the presentation into 5 sections. Obviously, I want to give you a little bit of context of where we started from. There's a lot of materials, etc., of course, but we're going to condense it to give you a high-level view. Then the strategy. Kieran will share with you the financial targets for 2023. And then we'll show you some emerging results. So we already got some early results, though we have just started embarking on the new strategic direction. And some next steps. So I'm sure you have seen the share price, and we won't dwell too much on the share price. But it's very clear that checking in with many people felt it's also time now to be very articulate about the strategy and focus going forward. And strategy is about focus, so obviously that can change over time. But it's good to have that direction in front of us. We talked about the cash conversion, and you've seen some of the numbers, so great progress already. Highly leveraged, and also organic growth. We're not happy with 5% organic comparable growth. We want it to be higher. And always ahead of the market. So it was clear that in order to build a sustainable, profitable, but also important for the management and the organization, a very predictable business, we needed to take a step back, like any business would do, and set the long-term direction. I won't bore you with the details of how we got there, other than saying there was a process. Started back in March. We got a bit of help externally to crunch all our data. We do have a very complex portfolio of brands and products in South Africa and in Europe. We checked in with our own employees. We had a sounding board. We did consumer and customer interviews. And as I said earlier today, we also did an investor study and survey back in April. Then we were embarking on building a new strategy, the new group ambition, and the right building blocks going forward. Still building on where we come from. We should not forget our roots and our heritage. So that has been top of mind during the entire process. So we have looked at almost everything we could. And any business has challenges. Also Ascendis Health. I think the important part here is to say we have been very open, honest, and done the soul searching and the internal learning exercises over the last many months to really understand what are the challenges, and as important, or maybe more important, what are our key strengths and how do we build on those strengths going forward? Because those strengths will still define us. So it's not about the challenges, it's about how we are dealing with them. So the strategy has probably been slightly unfocused, but for good reasons, because we were opportunistic. A very complex portfolio, as I said a few times. And I think one area where we learned that we can do even better is understanding our patients, our consumers a lot better. In my experience, if you don't understand them well, their insights, what they want and why, you will not succeed. And we have tons of strengths. We've just highlighted 5 here. We have lots of IP and USPs in all our businesses. In terms of brands, in terms of the R&D, our dossiers, and we can also check in with consumers and see how they feel about our brands and products. Same with our customers. So there's a lot to build on across all our businesses. Another key strength is our customer relationships. Remember, we both have retailers, distributors, agents, the public sector, pharma companies, even now we are on e-commerce. One key learning here is that we have, because of years of experience, a lot of businesses built by very smart, hardworking entrepreneurs. Those relationships we should never forget. And we believe that we can build on those relationships by joining more forces internally. And then we have, in various places, very unique business models on their own. How can we learn from them in one business and applying on another business? Or how can we expand a business model faster into new territories? So that was briefly about context, summarized. We see 4 central components of our strategy. First of all, simplifying, and strengthening the core of the business. We do have winning divisional strategies that are aligned to the group level. And then we have this group structure where we want to add value to the entire business that can help swiftly allocate resources across divisions, but also put in the right capabilities for our strategies. Again, a strategy is as good as on the screen or on PowerPoint or on the booklet. But if you don't have the leadership and the capabilities, it will never materialize. So we are busy now identifying what those are. And then, most importantly, for all our employees and also for the market, articulate a unified group ambition. You saw the video earlier. It's not a secret. It's all about people. Because a lot of our products and brands are not very different to the competition, like many companies. But our people are, and if we put that mix of entrepreneurial flair and a bit more rigor in areas, we believe we can unify that. Let's talk about the first one, which is simplification and strengthening the core. Here you see our portfolio of different businesses. 2 of them we have sold, direct selling and sports nutrition in South Africa. And as you can see, we play across many sectors, from generics, sports nutrition, OTC, medical devices. That is a strength, but only to a point. Then you need to simplify and focus. And we play in many geographies. All our businesses, except from one, actually play in all areas, Africa, Middle East, and in Europe. We've been trying to identify our peers. And it's not easy to find an identical peer, which is maybe good. It means there's something special about us. We have listed some companies here you are familiar with, some big global companies, some local companies. It is very apparent that players that have a lot of breadth are much bigger than we are and can scale. So we have to simplify and scale where we see the competitive advantage and where there is return for us and for you. So that's what we have done. Here you see our businesses. You can see it is important to reduce the breadth and also go deeper in the businesses and really understand each of the business. And I want to bring a little bit of theory into it before I show you how it actually works in Ascendis Health practice. So we have assessed each of our divisions to determine its future role in this company. We have looked at growth potential. How attractive is it? How profitable is it? What are the macroeconomic trends? What are the consumer trends? Where the retailer is going within each of these areas? And then strategic fit, which is about how it fits to our portfolio as a company. The size of the bubble sets out the full year 2018 revenue of that business. And the color, which you will see in a moment, talks to the current and the future profitability of the business. So what are the upsides in terms of profit? And obviously, top right is the most attractive business. So what does it mean for Ascendis Health? It It means, as you already might have seen in our announcements, that our pharma, and we have 3 pharma businesses, and our consumer healthcare are the most attractive to this company. We call it the core because of the reasons I just explained. They are more in the upper right-hand corner, pharma being really up there. Animal health and medical are in the second layer. It doesn't mean they're not important. They are very important and a part of Ascendis Health family. A very strong in South Africa, can expand into the region, great returns, and also maybe in the future could be a part of our M&A strategy. So I just want to make that crystal clear. Bioscience, we see as more non-core to the business. It's a different business model, serves different customers, and the capabilities, especially the scientific, are different to the rest of Ascendis Health. And we do believe, coming back to simplification and strengthening the core, it is the right call and the right next step for us to explore the divestment of bioscience. So just to repeat, the core, pharma and consumer, animal health and medical, a part of the family, very important for the reasons I just mentioned. And bioscience, we're looking to explore the divestment. And I think one of our principles are that every business cannot be equally important. That's why we're saying core to 2 of the businesses, but the rest is important as well. We have to make those calls. So I spoke about the context of why bioscience is a logical next step in terms of its divestment. It will also include Maltons, which is today is a part of our animal health. But it's mainly because it joins forces when it comes to the go-to-market. So that will also be a part of it. But obviously we want to divest this as a going concern, not in different parts, but as a one business. And we want to look after our people in this process, and they have obviously already been informed about this. Looking at geography, we didn't have to do so much analysis of what is important to us. It is EMEA, so Africa, Middle East, and Europe, because this is where our foothold is. More than 95% of our business is actually there. And this is where we want to be, and maybe selectively go into other areas. But just to mention, US is not a priority for us. We want to be really, really strong where we are. I want to say just a few words about some of the businesses and what are the first thinking and examples of some of the strategies that we can build within those divisions. On pharma, if we join forces between the different businesses and look across the entire portfolio, we can see how we can focus that business a lot more, understanding where do we have competitive advantage, where can we drive our margins, and how can we expand some of these businesses into other markets and work even closer with the customers. It's very obvious. We haven't been able today to really drive those synergies. But bringing it all together, we think it's going to enhance the chances many times. On consumer brands, it's about the portfolio of brands and products that also can be expanded into new markets. A lot of consumer insights are actually similar across a lot of our categories. Just to mention probiotic as one, we do play in probiotic across many of our businesses. Why not really understand the consumer in this area and exploit that within each of these small businesses? So expansion is also an opportunity for consumer health. Medical devices, I think it's clear. We have the foothold here. We are very strong. We are number one. We can do even more. We can also expand into new areas of Africa. The great credentials within animal health. We have done acquisitions over the last 18 months, really, really good acquisitions, great people coming into Ascendis Health. And we have expertise both in production and in companion. And there will be synergies, and this is where strategy really meets the idea. We can drive those insights across the businesses and within the businesses. M&A, I think you can imagine that M&A, looking at it by division instead of looking at it across the company and doing maybe another acquisition in one country or in two, it's more attractive to see what is the strategy for this division, what are the gaps in the market, and then embark on an M&A journey once we are ready. Ultimately, one face to the customer. As I said, we have businesses that are visiting the same customer. We can join forces as well and not necessarily have 3 people visiting the same customer. That can be down the road. And capability building. This is maybe our biggest opportunity to swiftly allocate capabilities from one area, be it R&D, maybe into another area. This also means a lot of opportunities for our employees in terms of trying out new opportunities. And if they're mobile, maybe go to another business. Slightly, or some would say completely different thinking than maybe we did in the past, where we were more siloed. Then we set out 5 winning divisional strategies that all the businesses have implemented in this year's plan and will do going forward. Obviously, we'll revisit those strategies to make sure they're right as we move forward. But we think now this is critical. The number 1 is having a focused portfolio with winning products and brands. We cannot equally invest in all our brands and products. So I think quite obvious, but a difficult exercise. Select geographies, customers, where we really believe we can win, where we have a big opportunity to scale our business. Commercial excellence, it's a critical part of Ascendis Health. And that can be retailers, that can be customers, innovation pipeline, etc. Everyone has to deliver there. Operational efficiencies, it's of course about driving more margin, taking some cost outs where we can and reinvest them into the business. Supply efficiencies, systems, which is also a big part of our agenda. And finally, have world-class leaders in this business is maybe the biggest priority for us. And we do have lots of world-class leaders. We want to keep developing them, and we want leaders that continuously want to learn on that journey, because there's going to be a lot of learning for us going forward. So I wanted to take you through some of these divisional strategies just to give you a little bit of flavor of what we are talking about. It's not just on paper. It's actually start to working already. On the portfolio strategy and creating winning brands, what we have done across all the businesses, we have divided all our brands and products into 4 categories. We call them chiefs, futures. Those are the most important categories, Milkaways and cliffhangers, which I think are self-explanatory. Cliffhangers are almost making it, but normally this is products and brands we don't want to spend time on, we actually want to divest. And we have got those buckets of brands and products based on those 6 criteria you see up here. Like, what is the likelihood that this brand can win in the long run? Is it margin accretive to the brand and to the business? Everything we do has to be margin accretive, ideally, to what we did yesterday. That's the way to drive margin out of the business. And we will show the business model later that is talking to that. So now we have the business divided, each business in those areas. So now we're actually able to allocate our resources, marketing, sales, and people time towards the biggest opportunities. And that goes across all the divisions. So at a very high level, Kieran and myself are able to see soon, almost instantly, how we're doing. So we could be able to allocate those resources. Ideally within the division first, but maybe even at some point of time across the divisions. So we don't sub-optimize. our business. And just to give an idea of the upside, the opportunity for us, looking at our business as of yesterday. If you look at Chiefs, you can see where we are currently in the gray bar and the target where we should be. There's a gap between the two. So we should have more products and brands to Chiefs. But we're not there yet because they're not meeting the hurdle rates. But as they will meet the hurdle rates, we'll have a bigger portion in that area. And those are the products and brands that will make the future of this business. Same with futures. You can see in Milky Ways and cliffhangers, it's the other way around. We need to reduce here. And there will always be Milky Ways. Any business needs products and brands that we're milking. And to the right, you see the resource allocation. And actually today, I'm pleased to say that 75% of our marketing and people resources, we are spending on Chiefs and futures. Now we just need to deliver on the target. When it comes to geography, we have divided all our countries into A, B, C, D countries. A and B are the most important. So you can imagine if you have your A and B countries at one level and you have your Chiefs and futures at another in that metric, your gold mine is Chiefs and futures in A and B countries. If you really focus there to start with, should be an upside on organic growth. And we can see on distribution there is a lot of opportunity. So just getting our key products or SKUs into the stores to get to a reasonable weighted distribution, we have great opportunity there. And we can even penetrate our portfolio even further. When it comes to commercial excellence, this is a massive opportunity. All our businesses are doing very well. But we're also trying to maybe instill a little bit of more rigor into the businesses. So innovation, the principle is fewer, bigger, better. When we launch something, it has to be something that makes sense incrementally in terms of market share and also profitability. They have to be able to scale. Brand equity, as I talked about earlier, it means does it resonate with the consumer at the end of the day? Understand the insights is going to change that. You can have products that are Me Too on benefits, but have a different insight, just very unique. And consumers will queue up to buy the product because this product or this brand just understands you well. Repeat and scale. With such a complex portfolio as we have and now we are simplifying it, you can imagine if we know what is working well and we validate it, we can quickly replicate into other channels or other countries. So we're not going to take big risks here, I think, because we want to make sure it works. Because as soon as we put resources behind it, it has to work. But we'll do mistakes, because we have to take risk, of course. That's another way to learn. But I think you get the principle. If you look at our pipeline today, we just started a process where we want to validate all our pipeline based on 6 criteria. We revealed a few for you here. So does it fit with the brand strategy that we have set out? And is it accretive to the margin of that brand? And looking at some of our top projects, you can see that we're actually able to improve our gross margin on those projects from 45% to 52%. So 7 percentage points. Just applying that rigor. But this is, of course, just the beginning. This is something we need to apply constantly across all the businesses. Operational efficiencies. Here we have also a number of opportunities. We need to make calls whether it makes sense to manufacture in-house or go externally. Will depend on the cost, on the flexibility, and on the service levels. But we do believe, though, that we have a lot of IP, a lot of expertise in a lot of our manufacturing across the company we don't want to give away. But it is a part of the consideration set. And maybe another one to pick out here is ERP system. We have brought together over 10 years of many systems. It is the time now to seriously consider to have a company-wide ERP system. And we will look into that now. That's going to help us, of course, with the data, with the speed in decision-making, etc. And then generally, we're going to take a hard look at our costs. We already started that. Costs, maybe to save, but it could also be to reinvest into the business. So the whole cost optimization mindset is something we want to instill even more into the company. So costs that we can see are not working, that we can't justify. And just by going back to the portfolio management of chiefs and futures, this is the first place to start. The last one is people and leaders. Leadership development is important. Again, we have people coming from different directions, different backgrounds, roots. We need to develop them. So we are putting in place leadership development programs, and we want to have a very high-performing but also diverse leadership team at all times aligned. Performance management, we have implemented a new short-term performance management just 1st of July for all the senior leaders, obviously focusing on their financials, meeting the targets with an upside if they exceed, but also zooming in on their personal deliverables. If they can make a difference, then we will also reward them. And we also introduced a long-term incentive program, 1st of July, again for all senior leaders. So they are part of the long-term strategy and help us build Ascendis Health going forward. And I spoke about capability building earlier. This is an important piece. We'll go through that during the next 9 months, identifying the gaps we have to deliver the strategy and fill those gaps, internally and externally. But I really do believe, having been in many places of our businesses the last 12 months, that there are hidden capabilities, great talents everywhere in the business. Just need to tease them out and nurture it. The other and the third component is really just about the group. So we're not here to build a huge headquarter infrastructure to support the rest of the businesses. A lean and mean group structure with the right capabilities that can support the divisions. And swiftly understand how to reallocate those resources I spoke about earlier. Managing the performance on a monthly basis and supporting our senior leaders to deliver their numbers. And I think another area that is very important is the people engagement. That we at all times know what is the atmosphere, what is the pulse in the organization. So putting in place constantly and measuring the engagement levels at our businesses is a priority. And obviously the executive committee is going to play a key part in setting that direction and following up on that. Then with the new strategy, it's also clear that we need to change our operating model. Can't work in the same way with a new strategy. And strategy should dictate operating model, not the other way around. We looked at many options over the last few months, and based on the strategy, we believe this model works. So instead of being based in geographies, so Europe and South Africa, we rather want to go into divisions and build the businesses within each of these businesses. Clearly understand the strategy and drive the business from there, because they are unique and distinct businesses. So the new 4 divisions are medical, pharma, consumer healthcare, and animal health. And I said Maltons and biosciences. Logical next step for us is to divest it. But they're obviously still a part of the business today. Governance. We also believe we have looked into, we got some feedback on that, we have improved the governance, so we have our board committees. We now have an executive committee at Ascendis Health that are meeting regularly and, of course, monitoring the business, as I just mentioned. We also have a capital, cash, and investment committee that meets monthly, look at our OPEX, CAPEX investment, making sure that we sign off the ones that really make sense strategically and are in line with the strategy. We're also doing soul searching on our M&A. So what sort of M&A that we have, the M&A we have done, how has that worked? Have we actually delivered what we said? What did we learn from it? And this team will also look at new acquisitions going forward once we are ready. Then this team will take its recommendations to the board. And the board will make the final call. Innovation, I spoke about. We'll also introduce an innovation forum or group that is looking at our pipeline's health at all times, because it's a big part of our investment across all the businesses, as I said earlier. And company-wide, we're going to add a few more functions because we need those capabilities to deliver the strategy. We already have program management, communication, finance and risk, human resources. But ICT, so technology, including digital, is obviously a very important part for us and a building block to help us drive to the strategy. Marketing, because of the consumer insights, because we are also brands and we are products. And legal. Sales capabilities will help all our sales forces across all our businesses further improve their key account management skills, measure their performance, and help them develop. So we don't have all these in place right now, but we will over the next 6 months. Finally, the unified group ambition. We took a hard look at who are we, what is the identity of Ascendis Health. We thought we need to reignite that and articulate the purpose for the business. It's very important for all the employees to understand what you are part of. So we are a health and well-being company. And as you saw in the video earlier, we believe we are in the people business, both in terms of consumers and customers, but also because the people in our organization, the way they work together, the way they build the culture, make the extra effort, challenge each other, support one another, is what's going to make the difference. And I think it's quite rewarding. And we want to understand the patients and the consumers' lives, what they're going through on that journey. And if we can be relevant across all their touch points, which we want to, then we'll also obviously improve our business. So a healthy life is a happy life. I'm sure you agree. And our vision is connected. We set the bar high. At everything we do, we want to be people's first choice on their journey, whatever the journey is. So no financial targets here. It's the vision connected to our purpose. And this overview just brings everything together. The purpose, the vision, simplification of Ascendis Health and strengthening the core of the business. The strategies supported by improved capabilities and a group structure that adds value. If we don't add value, then we shouldn't have it. So we're going to challenge ourselves at all times, also on the costs. So that's sort of the right place, I think, to pause before I give the word to Kieran on the financial targets. Thank you.
Thanks, Thomas. So I've got 3 slides. The first slide, I'd just like to share our business model with you. and incorporates a lot of what Thomas has already spoken to you about around the 5 pillars. And I think, as he mentioned, the first one, developing world-class leaders that learn, I think is vitally important. So we've put it at the top there. Those 5 pillars are going to help increase our revenue growth and expand the margins. Thomas spoke about winning portfolios, so reinvesting our marketing investment into our futures and our chiefs, away from the cliffhangers and the milkaways. And that'll help us increase our gross margins. So the combination of increased revenue and gross margin, along with cost optimization. I mean, I've got Scottish roots. I'm an accountant. You don't get tighter than a Scottish accountant. But I believe that up until now, the cost saving has been rather piecemeal. And we're going to focus on a cost optimization project. We'll go deep into the businesses because we still believe there's a lot of costs that can be pulled out of the business. And then continuing with the great work that we've done around working capital optimization, we believe that we're going to be able to spin out a lot more cash from the business. So increased EBITDA and increased cash. Thomas also spoke to you about the improved governance around how we invest. So we've established that capital and cash investment committee. Thomas and I sit on that. We meet on a monthly basis. And from there we decide, with this cash that we've spun off from the business, how much do we reinvest back into the business to drive organic growth? And within that particular business, where do we allocate the capital? Which brands do we invest in? Which businesses, which regions do we invest in? So that will take place at that meeting. Once we're happy that the organic growth has been sufficiently invested in, then we look for selective acquisitions, which strengthen the core, as we spoke about, strengthening the core. So look in those different areas that will strengthen the core around consumer and pharma. And once we're satisfied with that, then we'd look to see what we can return to shareholders. As you know, we've frozen our dividend over the last couple of reporting periods. We don't think it's right that we're in a growth phase to pay dividends out. But once we've happy that the model is working and churning out enough cash, we'd look then to re-establish paying a dividend to our shareholders. Looking at some of the metrics we've shared with you in the results earlier today, we said 5% organic revenue growth. We're not happy with that, but we are happy with pockets of it. We saw very, very strong growth in our European businesses, 9% comparable organic growth. And we're guiding that by 2023 on a CAGR basis, an organic revenue growth of between 7 and 10%. We're very comfortable that the plans that we've put in place will help us achieve that with that metric. The second metric that we're focusing on, as I said, is EBITDA margin. We're in our short-term target range, 17.3%. But we believe with the increasing gross margins, by investing in the right brands, with the cost optimization projects, that by 2023 we can get our EBITDA margin between 22 and 25%. Cash conversion, everybody in the business speaks about cash. And we did a really good job to get that cash conversion up to 92%. Obviously, with the business growing as it is, we have to invest a little bit more into net working capital. We don't believe 92% is a sustainable cash conversion going forward. As I said, part of the business model is reinvesting back into the organic growth of the business, but we're guiding between 77 and 81% going forward. ROE, way too low for us at the moment, in our opinion, and we believe that with what we're doing around strengthening the balance sheet, not going to the market for further equity raises as we go along, we believe that we can get the ROE between 23 and 27% in 5 years' time. And then net leverage. I think, as I said earlier, this has been one of the concerns from investors in the past around the high levels of gearing. 3.4 times is our net leverage, excluding deferred vendor liabilities. Our target in 5 years' time is to be between 2.5 to 3 times, including deferred vendor liabilities. As you can see on the next slide, most of the deferred vendor liabilities we actually pay off by FY20. So we've got 840 million in FY20 to pay related to the Remedica deferred vendor liability. But as you can see, the step up happens in our capital repayments. So the dark blue graphs, those start stepping up our deferred vendor payment start stepping down, and then we've got the big bullet payment of 2.7 billion in FY22. So what we want to do is we want to improve the certainty around how we're going to fund these various payments going forward. I think the news around the disposal of biosciences is one step in that right direction. But obviously that's uncertain timing, uncertain amount at this point of view. So we want certainty. So we've gone on a debt refinancing exercise now. We're busy exploring the bond markets in the high yield markets. We've embarked on that process. And we're looking at potentially, if that doesn't work out for us, is to refinance with senior bank debt. But with that debt to refinance, we will remove the uncertainty around the deferred vendor liability. So that will be catered for. It'll give us liquidity. It'll give us some dry powder. So when we go back into the market and start acquiring, we'll have some cash to make those acquisitions in the selective core kind of businesses that we're targeting. And that's everything from my side. Thanks.
So as I said earlier, we have now announced the strategy. We started some of the work earlier in the latter part of 2018 fiscal. So I want to share with you some emerging results. These strategic initiatives, we have many of these. So we have 4 or 5 generally for each of the business units. So what are the 4 or 5 growth areas, strategic initiatives that is going to make these businesses tick? We know that by now. We have KPIs for these initiatives, and we do follow up on a monthly basis and support the teams delivering on those. So that's already in progress, and that's coming back again to the portfolio strategy and geography strategy. So those obviously linked with those initiatives. I talked about the short-term and long-term incentive. It's very important, and that's now been implemented. And then I want to talk a little bit about some of the other initiatives that has already shown early results and good progress. On the divestment front, biosciences, logical next step. Obviously, that process will just start now. Sports nutrition, we did complete the transaction with a value of 54 million rand. Direct selling, we announced 50 million, and we have the SPA, sales and purchase agreement, that's already signed. On Isando, we are in the final stages of completing that. SciTech, a business we believe in. Sports nutrition is a very attractive category. It is growing fast in many parts of the world, so we want to play there. But we also realized and recognized, as we have talked about a lot of times, last time when we met at the pre-close in June, that we do need a turnaround plan, and we have a plan. We looked at different scenarios, and we chose to focus and invest. We think that's the best and the most responsible strategy to attack SciTech in turning it around. Here are some very early results. You can also find that in your booklet, but I can just talk to a few of them. We did this big UNA usage and attitude study among consumers in that segment across many markets to really understand the consumer, going back to what I said earlier about insights. So we do know the consumer very well in sports nutrition, and we have historically only been in one segment, which is the bodybuilding segment. We have decided now to relaunch in that segment, but more importantly, actually enter a new segment. So instead of playing in a small part of the market, we're going to increase the playing field. And we know from the consumer research and the concepts we have done that there's a huge likelihood to win in that segment as well. So we'll be playing in 2 segments going forward. We have a huge portfolio at SciTech, both branded portfolio but also contract manufacturing. We've already reduced the portfolio of the branded by 20% since we started this journey back in the end of 2018. We're not going to be everywhere with SciTech. We're also being a lot more focused when it comes to markets. So key markets for us are right now home market in Hungary, obviously, but also Western Europe. We're in the UK, we're in Middle East, and then we'll be very selective about a lot of other markets going forward. The sports nutrition user or consumer looks online, looks at communities, what bloggers are saying, influencers, and also shop online. But most consumers are both online and offline. They're an omni-channel. So we have to be both at retail, but also online. And as I said earlier today, we have already shown great progress with Amazon and also our own web stores. And we're looking to improve our efficiencies at supply, and our contract manufacturing that are growing 17% are helping us in that area as well. So we are committed to this turnaround, and hopefully when we come back next time, we can show even more progress in turning around SciTech. When it comes to senior people and adding more values and capabilities to the company, we did already announce in June 3 of the guys up here. And since then, we also added a group head of human resources, again recognizing that leadership, capability building, engagement are critical. And I think we are going to expand further in that area. And Ilona has just joined us 6 weeks ago. She has experience both from the sector, she has experience from corporate, and also from private equity. So in terms of next steps, we're launching the strategy today, as you know, and also completing some of our divestments here in September. In October, we are going to launch our new operating model work with our internal teams. And as you can imagine, taking a new direction and changing the operating model also means change management. So we are going to add change management resources both externally and internally to our business to help all our people through that journey. That will start in October. And we hope by February to have our operating model for each division in shape, and we go live from our next fiscal year, which is July next year. But we want to engage the entire Ascendis Health organization and its senior leaders on this journey. So just in summary, you can imagine that we are very excited about the new strategy. In terms of financial targets, organic growth 7 to 10% on a CAGR basis till 2023 is what we need to achieve at minimum. And at that point, 22 to 25% of EBITDA return. That is actually better than some of our peers and some in line with some of our peers. But we believe we can do that looking at our model. Not a secret, again, we'll be a lot more focused, a lot more streamlined as a business. We'll be consumer and people-centric. Strengthening the core, in this case pharma and consumer healthcare, with 2 other very important family members, medical devices and animal health. We're changing the operating model from being geography-based to being divisional and driving scale and competitive advantage and margin within each of these divisions. It's also from there we're going to do M&A when we are ready. Divesting a few businesses in South Africa, as we said, because they are non-strategic or did not perform under the new strategy. And also we believe these businesses and its people, and we have managed to get a lot of the people transferred to new owners, can do a lot better with a new owner and a new family there than with us. And we'll focus on those 5 divisional strategies that is going to drive growth across all of them. So just before we show the video again, it only takes a few minutes, and then we'll take your questions. I just would like to thank all the people at Ascendis that have helped build the strategy. We had a lot of people involved. Obviously, the executive committee has been instrumental, and the board, who has engaged and supported us to get to where we are today. And for all the inputs and insights, I think a lot of investors has given us over the last 6 months. We hope that we have addressed a lot of those in the strategy. Thank you for your attention. We'll take your questions. Just show the video one more time. Thank you.
People. We're a funny bunch. Passionate. Complicated. Unpredictable. Inspiring. In our fundamental needs, we can be so simple. In the lives we lead, we can be so complex. At Ascendis Health, we're in the business of people. Some companies build products. Other companies build connections. We do both and help people build lives that promote their health and well-being. We put people at the heart of everything we do. Our heart beats to the rhythm of their lives, their dreams, their ambitions, their joys, their fears. Their lives inspire us and their needs motivate us. We believe that everyone has the right to lead a healthy, happy life. So we listen, we understand, and we work. Not just on meeting needs, but anticipating them. Because a healthy life is a happy life. Ascendis Health.
Any questions? One over here.
If I understand it correctly, you're not planning to pay dividends for the next 4 years. So why should I invest in your shares?
Yeah, I think we've always been a growth share. We haven't been a dividend share. So I think the investment into Ascendis will deliver you capital growth in that share. Not to say that we won't pay a dividend within the next 4 years. I'm saying that the resources that we allocate will be first allocated to drive the organic growth, and secondly into our M&A, strategic M&A. And then if there's enough cash spun off from there and everything else is right, if our leverage metrics are in place, then we'd look to pay a dividend.
Hi guys. Given the divestiture from the SA sports nutrition business and your turnaround at Cytec, are there any lessons we can learn from the SA business that have been applied to Cytec? And if not, why disinvest from the one and continue to invest in the other?
I mean, the learnings actually goes back to understanding the consumer, not having too many brands that has overlap, because the consumers do not understand how to navigate the portfolio. So that's one of the reasons why we said it's better to divest brands in South Africa, find a new place for these brands, and focus entirely on the Cytec brand, where we know the consumers in those two segments, instead of having 5 that are competing with one another. So I think those are the main learnings for us. And then we can scale Cytec globally. And as I just showed, there are some very early signs that is working, but still to be seen in terms of how we're driving the brand and how it works in terms of market shares, etc. But early signs are promising. Sure. One question over here.
What do you envisage the timeline is going to be for divesting the biosciences? And you mentioned that when you are ready, you're going to start doing M&A. So when do you envisage that to be? And if you're going to strategically look for bolt-on acquisitions, or whether you're going to have major acquisitions coming on board?
So we don't have a timeline for bioscience. First of all, we want to look well after the people, and then we want to make sure we find the right buyer for the right price. So I can't give you any timeline on that. We'll be very patient. In terms of new M&A, I think as soon as we have a clear strategy footprint for each of these businesses, and financially we are in a good place to do that, then I'm sure we'll go back on the M&A track. And based on our new strategy, we're going to be selective calls on where it makes most sense first. We're probably going to say no to 99% of M&A opportunities and yes to one that fits with that strategy. I think that's going to be the starting point. But yes, we might be pragmatic here and there. We might see an opportunity, and obviously, who would not pursue that opportunity? But we had not put a timing on it. The only thing we said was that we will pause for 12 months. We said that earlier in the year. I will still stick to that. Question over here?
Am I?
You can shout.
Okay, so I've got a couple of questions. Maybe let's fire one at a time, if that's okay. So in terms of contingent liabilities. Hello? Thank you. So first question, in terms of your contingent liabilities, you've got the 840, which is for Remedica next year, August. Are you able to give us any update on the Remedica earn-out amount, that's 75 million euros? How much of that is, so what is firstly the probability of that thing being met, and how much would you need to pay out? And then there's an earn-out fee on Sunwave as well, and correct me if I'm wrong, is there another payment on Pharma Leader, if you want to take out the balance on that?
Okay, so the Remedica contingent fee, so the one that we've shown there is the guaranteed one. So we have not raised anything related to the contingent fee. The hurdles for that are pretty high. So the year immediately after we acquired Remedica, they fell off that hurdle, and we don't think it's likely that they will be able to catch up to that. So that has not been provided for. The Sunwave earn-out, Sunwave business is absolutely flying. We've already paid out the first one, so we had changed. That one is a little bit different. We pay annually. We pay that earn-out. So they've hit their first year one payment, and they continue to grow strongly. The third question was?
Pharma Leader.
Pharma Leader, that's not an earn-out. That's actually a put-call option to purchase the remaining 51% of that business in two tranches, 31% in 2020, and then the remaining 20% thereafter. So that's the valuation, in our view, based on historical cash flows and forecasts going forward, on what that next tranche should cost us.
So in terms of actually exercising that put call, would you exercise it?
So we're looking at it at the moment. That's something that is subject to a due diligence. We're going to have a look at the due diligence on their pipeline. So we know what's happening from a financial point of view. We just want to see what's coming up in their pipeline, and that will probably kick off later in this quarter.
Okay. Going back to the slide that you had on the deferred payments over the next couple of years, would it be safe to assume that you're looking to finance that Remedica payment with debt, given where the share price is currently trading at?
Correct. Yeah, we won't be issuing equity to service that. It will be part of that debt finance project that we're looking at the moment.
Okay. Sorry, going back to the results, are you able to give us an update in terms of what is the value of your government arrears? Because I know there was an issue last time on the cash conversion. How much of the 120, I think it was, that was outstanding, has been paid?
Yeah, so at December, it was 120. It then increased further to the end of March to about 140 million. That was total government debt. What we've seen is that all departments, all national departments are up to date now. So when their new budget came in, they paid us using the new budget, as they sort of traditionally do, with the exception of Gauteng. So Gauteng, they spent a lot more than their budget. So we've come to an agreement where they paid us 50% upfront, and that's the money that we got in May, and they'll be paying the remainder in May next year. They've got a signed acknowledgement of debt. So, yeah, that's something that we had negotiated. Initially, the first terms that they'd come to all the suppliers with were that they were going to spread that payment over 4 years. And, yeah, that's something that was not acceptable to us.
Okay, thanks. Then going on to the new long-term incentive plan, are you able to give us some more details in terms of the KPIs that are part of that plan?
Sure. I mean, the LTI is linked to the share price growth. So it's a phantom share scheme. obviously the key employees are participants of that scheme, have to be in the company in 3 years' time, and then vests over a further 3 years. So it's all around aligning the shareholder interests with the employees' interests.
Okay, and on the short-term side, short-term incentive plan?
Short-term, yeah.
So yeah, it's a combination of financial targets and personal strategic objectives. And financials will be around the revenue, EBITDA, and cash conversion.
Okay. I don't know how the mic, just last two questions, sorry. Are you in the process of building a new head office on Malibongwe?
No, so I've been asked that question a lot, actually. Thomas mentioned that the medical devices businesses, which is 4 separate businesses with 4 different locations, coincidentally enough in that area, so there's a building in Kaya Sands, Honeydew, they're all going under one roof. So that facility's been a bespoke facility built for the medical devices division. So overall, we're going to make a big saving. We don't own property. That will be rented. But we'll house all 4 of those businesses under one roof. And obviously, there's a lot of synergies that will spin off as a result of that.
Okay. Last question. Given all the changes that are happening with the strategic focus, can you give us a view from management in terms of staff morale at the moment? And what are you doing to improve that if it is done?
Sure. So we've just launched a strategy this morning, but obviously some of the key leaders have been engaged in the whole process of developing the strategy. And as I said earlier, change management and engaging the troops, actually from today onwards, is going to be a part of the rollout of the strategy. So we have a change management program where we're engaging senior leaders, all the staff. We are improving the volume of communication as well, and we are checking in with all our staff over the next many months now as we have launched the strategy this morning. So we have a whole program for that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
May I ask, are you in a direct competition with other companies which are much bigger than you, or have you targeted niche markets where you have a big market share relative to your competitors? Because it seems that you started off by buying a huge variety of companies, when what one really needs to do is to buy into a company where you have a reasonable market share and you can increase that market share. Are you in niche markets, or are you vulnerable to your competitors?
Yeah, we are both in niche markets, and we are in markets where there's lots of competition. So as a part of this exercise, we have looked at all our business units and where all our products are playing, and we've been trying to understand how can we sustain the position or how can we take a bigger share. There are areas where we see we can't win. It's not possible. It's not worthwhile investing. And those areas we basically park as what we call the milkaways. We're milking them, or we call them cliffhangers. So we're taking a hard look at all our products and brands to get to that. And this is a continuous journey. It's not something that is stopping today. We're going to continuously do that as we move forward. That's the idea. Question.
Last one from me. With regards to the new group hires to deliver on this strategy, and I see you have made some. The position of interim COO, is this intending to be an interim position,
Yes.
and then a permanent one will be sought in the market, or will this position become a permanent position?
So now it is an interim, but as we move towards the new divisional structure, we are not sure, but we are going through that journey now with the target operating model. How are we going to operate? How much do we need of that support in South Africa? But until we get to that place, we'll still have an interim CEO in place for the country. But we don't foresee today that we're going to have an MD South Africa because of the divisions.
And then follow up on that. I think you mentioned it now, so it's going to be probably a factor of where the focus lies in terms of SA versus EMEA as a broader region. But in certain key positions, I think, for example, our group head of human resources. In South Africa, we operate in a fairly challenging HR environment, probably less so than European markets. A position like this, for example, where our challenges from an HR perspective, from a regulatory perspective, is probably higher in SA. Why would we make an appointment of a European candidate rather than an SA candidate?
I think because we are also in Europe, it's more or less 50-50. We have said that let the best man or woman win in this situation, and we still have also challenges in Europe. We have 4 businesses there, also with HR challenges and opportunities to grow our leaders, engaging our employees. So it is more diverse there, maybe, because of the 4 businesses in 4 different locations, so it needs also attention. At the same time, we are still going to have, and we have, excellent HR resource in place also in South Africa. We will continue to do that. So in terms of understanding the market and some of the challenges here. So we're not moving away from that at all. And this person, by the way, is spending a lot of her time as well here, not only in Europe. So we do understand that we need to balance it, and we do balance it. Sure. No more questions? If you have more, you know how you can find us, so you're always welcome to contact us, and I know we're going to see some of you over the next couple of days. But anyway, thank you for spending almost 3.5 hours with us, 2.5 hours with us this morning, and see you soon. Thank you for your attention.